Hello everyone and welcome to the second Teachitright instructional video. My name is Luke Lloyd and today we're discussing how we can use Facebook to access the Facebook Live sessions. I'm going to cover three important things: how to create a Facebook account, how to join the correct Facebook group, and where to find the timings once you're in that group. And at the end we'll just go over some frequently asked questions. So first thing, you'll just need a browser. This is Google. Into that browser you just simply need to type in the words Facebook or Facebook sign up. It should look like this. If we click this top link here, this will take us to the Facebook website, which should look like this. If you've never used it before, this is how it will appear. If you have, there might be some profiles here that you can click on and sign in via those. Either will work, but if you're creating a new one, you simply have to fill out the details here, and it should look something like this. Important things to note, please use the parent's name or whoever is completing this rather than the child's, because this is the front-facing thing, this is what we've seen by everyone, and for safeguarding we require that not to be the child's name. An email address and a password, just make sure you note the password and you have access to the email address because you will need that in terms of confirmation. Once all these are filled in, you can hit the sign up button and you'll be taken to a page that looks like this. So this is Teachitright. This is one I made earlier, just for demonstration purposes. As you can see, it's been only up for about 5 minutes or more. Not much has been done to it. It doesn't have any friends, doesn't have any photos. And for our purposes, that's absolutely fine. You can stop here before doing the last step that I'll come on to in a moment. But also, just to make clear, if you decide to use this Facebook profile as intended, and you go on to add profiles, add friends, that's perfectly fine. It will not affect how we use it for Teachitright. Similarly, if you already have your own Facebook account, by all means use that. Right. The last step that everyone must do, be it new Facebook account or old, is to follow the link. So this is an example of the link that you might get. It will be in an email, probably in the same email that has this instructional video in it. There are three possible options. You're either going to follow Year 4, Year 5 CEM, or Year 5 GL. So just make sure you're clicking on the right link, and I'll show you where to look in a moment. So let's say I've clicked on this link here. I'll be taken to one of the 4 pages. So the thing to check, this is Year 4. It will say Year 5 CEM or Year 5 GL, accordingly, depending on each of the links you follow. One other thing to be a note, just make sure you are signed in to the account that you intend to use for the sessions. So if multiple people have a Facebook account or you have multiple users on a computer, just make sure this is the correct one. Once you're here, and if this is the group that you're after, simply click the join group button. And that will open up a pop-up that looks a bit like this. There will be 3 questions that you have to answer, and you have to just some rules you have to read through and tick. So let me just run through why we're asking these questions. One is to make sure you're in the right place. So are you currently in for yes or no? That's more to indicate have you got the correct group. The 2 important ones, and this is what is the name of your Teachitright Centre and your year group, and finally, what is your child's full name? These are mostly used for us in terms of registration. This way we can make sure that everyone is in the correct centre they're meant to, and more importantly, everyone has signed up who wants to. And that means we can then offer support to those who need it. So please fill these in digitally. The other thing important to note is none of these will be public facing, so only we at Teachitright will see this information, so you're able to fill it in full without needing to be worried. One more thing I'll just mention, these group rules, please do read these. The important thing really is to understand that what we want to build here is essentially a resource for us all to use, children inclusive, so make sure any questions that get posted here are questions that relate to the learning, relate to feedback, relate to the education, and they're written in a way that all children can understand and be able to read. This is a very much child-friendly space, please. Right, so once you have successfully clicked submit, you'll be faced with this, pending. So that's all that's changed from before. That's where you can sit back and relax because it's now on our turn and our end to go through and read the submitted requests and make sure, yep, you're in the right place, and yes, you're one of our students, in which case we will then tick you and you'll be in the sessions. Again, though, do just make sure, last time to check, you're in the right place. Once we've gone through, sorted out pending and accepted you in the group, when you next log in, this is what it will look like. So you can see here it's changed somewhat. You're able to access the material inside. This is actually my view from my screen, so you can see I can actually see people who've requested to join. I'm sure that number will go up over time. The thing I really want to draw attention to, parents, is this number, this tag here, the events page, and also the fact that, yep, we've now successfully joined. The reason that events is very useful is because it means you're allowed to plan what's coming up next. Let me just show you what it will look like. Once I've clicked on events, this follows up. So here's events. And you can see everything that's coming up in chronological order. So for example, on Saturday you can see the Year 4 lesson, on Sunday there's another Year 4 lesson, and then on Wednesday we've got 2 lessons, the Year 4 live lesson and a Q&A coming up afterwards. The other thing of note that I think is really important is you can actually then respond to us in terms of these events, saying, yep, going, ooh, maybe I am, or no, definitely can't go. And we would ask that out of each week you respond to all of these in terms of which one of the live lessons you're attending. This will just help us balance and our response a little more, because if we know one session is going to be more heavily subscribed, we can make sure there are more tutors in the channels in the chat to respond to questions, whereas if we have fewer, we can react accordingly. So I think that'll be really useful not only for parents to plan out their week, but also for us to make sure the response is measured and appropriate. Once you're now in the session, just to give you a brief overview, this is what it will look like. This is a feed, so you can see anything new that gets posted in here, any new activity. There's also a smaller version of the events page on the right hand side so you can see what's coming up, the next 2 that are coming up. Similarly, you can write questions in here, and this is very much what it will look like from your end. In terms of important information, this should have gone out to you the last couple of days. I'm just going to put it up on the board. If you need to pause it, take a photo, take a screenshot, that's fine. I'll just wait for a moment now. And then just talk through to say very much this is the schedule we'll be going off. Certainly for the first week, this is as it will stand. This is subject to change according to the needs. Obviously, we find some centres, some sessions are much more oversubscribed or vice versa. We'll try and change them accordingly. I will briefly talk out about just what these live Q&A sessions are. I'll come back to them later as well. Essentially, the live Q&A is an opportunity for students to ask questions, and this is really where we're hoping to emulate that classroom environment, where of course in a classroom we would never want any student to leave feeling like they couldn't ask a question. In the live ones, that might be more difficult to manage, so we've got dedicated question and answer sessions, so no child can go away saying I didn't have a chance to answer them. And of course we will put as many of these live Q&A sessions on as we need to get through them, so please do use them, do make the most of them, because we'll ensure that they're a resource that's as abundant as they need to be. I'll come back to some more of that in the frequently answered questions as well, I think. Right, so just one last thing. What is the best way to ask a question within the Facebook group? In the feed here, as you can see on the right hand side, you can actually post questions. So it could be simple written questions, give me an antonym for, define, any advice on this. But I have included 2 examples of 2 very good questions, very nicely answered. As you can see here, this person has not only asked the question, but they've also included a photograph. You'd do that via either using your phone to connect to Facebook or via the photo video port here. And that just means in terms of giving feedback for our tutors, it means they can be really precise, really concise, and really direct to the question. So if you can include photos, or for example, if you include written problems if they're mathematics and enables us to complete those, that's probably the best way to get prompt feedback. And again, I will read it out because it's so important. We would love this Facebook group to become a source of learning for everyone, and therefore we would encourage any questions that relate to learning to be posted in the feed. And I just think a lovely example. This is, for example, someone has asked, can anyone suggest movies on Prime or Netflix for children based on classic books to best utilise their screen time? Now, what a lovely question. Again, that's exactly the kind of thing that we think is appropriate to post in here. And also parents, and if you have any suggestions of this style of question, we would encourage you to feel free to respond if you wanted to. Again, entirely at your discretion. And again, but photographs in terms of feedback is ace. One thing to finally highlight is we're going to encourage all of our Teachitright tutors to be available in these in terms of responding, and that means it's not just going to be while the session is live that you can post in here, but throughout the week. So if you have a question, you're doing homework, you've got other work that doesn't necessarily relate but could be useful, post the questions in here, and we've got our 25 strong staff manning these to try and make sure feedback is as prompt and accurate as possible. The last page is just a few frequently asked questions, so I will just quickly read through these, but again I'll pause and just let you have a flick through as I run through them. So why have my lesson times changed? Well, unfortunately, we run too many sessions to be able to accurately emulate them or replace them with live sessions. We have over 45 classes, and many of these run at the same time, so we wouldn't be able to offer a live session matching each of them. However, we are offering you the pre-recorded sessions, and of course those can be watched at any time. And it's also really important to make it clear that the live lessons can be viewed at any time as well. And what this means is, once the live lesson is finished, on Facebook you can then go back and re-watch the live lesson. I think the advantage of obviously the pre-recorded lessons is they'll be out right at the beginning of the week, and you can watch and chop and change. The advantage to the live lessons really is that they'll have the timing in there, as well as it being a bit more interactive, a bit more fun, a bit more feedback, opportunities for Q's and A's and things. And then the final thing will be the Q&A's, which I'll mention a bit more in detail in a moment, where you can really get that informative feedback. It's just pure questions and answers, and we're here to help the students with what needs to be. And again, all of these can be viewed at any time. Why is my tutor not the one giving the lessons? Well, unfortunately, just due to the large amount of software, equipment and training needed to get people ready to stream and record videos, we've not been able to, sadly, equip all 25 of our tutors to stream. However, we do have, and this is so important, every tutor on call via their email address, so they can offer personalised support to your child. Please, please, please make the most of this. Our tutor is expecting your calls. In fact, they should have sent an email out to get in contact just to make that first link, so please check your spam again. Make sure you've got in contact with them. So that you can get that really personalised support, because obviously they've been building rapport for the last 4 blocks now. Really make the most of it. There certainly will be some questions that are not best put out into the ether to the whole group. Instead, someone who knows your student much better might be able to offer much more insightful, precise feedback in terms of advice and things. So please, please do make use of those email connections, because all our tutors are there and expecting your calls and your information. One other thing, very much watch this space. We are hoping to recruit, increase, and expand the number of tutors doing streaming as time goes on, but it's obviously something that's pending equipment, training and such. But certainly watch this space. What are the live Q&As for? We want each pupil to have an opportunity to ask questions about lesson content, really to a Teachitright tutor live in person. This is very much our attempt at emulating that lesson environment where you would be able to ask questions until you understand. There should be no opportunity now, no excuse for not getting your your questions answered. I think these live Q&As will enable every child to have the chance to ask questions of a qualified teacher. And I'll repeat it, it's worth saying, these can be questions that relate to learning in any form. Also, it's something you may want to attend, simply because if one child is asking a question, it's quite often the case that other students have that same misconception. So it may well be worth stopping down to these Q&As, simply to learn and see what other people are misunderstanding, and perhaps get involved and offer your own thoughts, because the best way to learn is to teach, as we always say. Right, the homework. How is the homework going to be marked? Unfortunately, all our lovely markers are at home. We're not able to post and reply with things. It wouldn't be safe, nor would we be able to turn it around in time. So what we're going to offer instead is a really detailed breakdown of every homework exercise that we set, and these will include worked answers, explanations, hints and tips, everything that a student would need on their own to be able to watch that and not only mark their answers and get them correct, but also hopefully understand the whys and why nots of what went wrong. Now, of course, it would be more beneficial if a parent could sit with a student and go through them using this as a resource. But again, of course, every home is up to them, and certainly the content should be perfectly acceptable that you mark the homework yourself, but then use this as a resource to go back and check for those places of understanding where you're not quite sure why it didn't make sense. Remember, the end goal of every homework is, well, by the time you're finished with it, I want to say, yep, not only do I know what I got wrong, but now I know why, and so in the future I won't make the same mistakes. Finally, what does my child need to complete a lesson? Well, we want to closely emulate the live lessons or the real Teachitright lessons as much as possible, so we want it to be the same. So you'd require all the block material for that block. So we've got block 5 coming up, pencil, pen, rubber, both jotters, and they're all important, word and meaning book. And of course, word and meaning book is so important. Building that vocabulary is key, really. It's vital to progressing. So we wanted to emulate that lesson as closely as possible, so everything you need for a normal lesson. Right, I'm going to just move on to say thank you so much. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to get in contact, either with us via email, or phoning the office in. But of course, also, if you're able to then get on to the Facebook groups, that is a perfectly reasonable place to post questions. So if you manage to get into these Facebook groups and you do have questions, don't hesitate to post them there. Right, thank you so much for your time, and I hopefully will hear from you all soon and see you in the live sessions. Bye-bye.